Hi everyone, this is Eagle News. I'm Ralph Cornell in Washington. It's the last Saturday of February 2023 here in the nation's capital. The week's recap begins with a very disturbing discovery of more unmarked graves at a formal residential school in British Columbia, in Canada. Joshua Santillana has the details.
Earlier this week, 17 suspected unmarked gravesites were found at a formal residential school in Port Alberni, British Columbia. 67 student deaths were recorded and documented at the former Alberni Indian Residential School. The Sishat First Nation led this search and spent the last 18 months finding potential graves of schoolchildren using ground-penetrating radar. The announcement of this discovery was given at a ceremony live-streamed last Tuesday. Majority of the attendees wore orange, the color that has come to symbolize victims of Canada's residential schools. The discovery of unmarked graves in areas of and surrounding formal residential schools in Canada was first announced back in May of 2021, when remains of 215 children were found at Kamloops Indian Residential School in British Columbia. About 150,000 children attended the residential schools and over 6,000 students died. The last Indian residential school in Canada closed in 1996. Joshua Santillana for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
A 50-car cargo train derailment near the Ohio-Pennsylvania state border last weekend sparks massive fires and evacuation orders. Although no injuries or fatalities were reported, fears over possible contamination of the air and water in East Palestine, Ohio rise. Pennsylvania governor joins other officials to find out how residents there are dealing with the situation. Malison Bulan reports.
Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania visits East Palestine in Ohio and Beaver County to hear more from residents after the Norfolk Southern train derailment. In 2023, a Norfolk Southern train derailed 53 cars in East Palestine, Ohio. The site of the derailment is less than a mile from the Pennsylvania border. 5 of the train cars contained the hazardous material vinyl chloride. Norfolk Southern scheduled a controlled vent and burn of the vinyl chloride from all 5 rail cars on the afternoon of February 6. The air plume from the vent has since dissipated. All previously damaged train cars have been removed from the tracks. This prompted the governors of Pennsylvania and Ohio to announce that residents may return to their homes. There is no longer the need to shelter in place. Air quality monitors around the perimeter of the derailment site did not measure any harmful pollutant levels entering Pennsylvania as a result of the derailment or the controlled burn. There are no long-term air quality concerns related to the derailment. Governor Shapiro pledges to work with U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's incident management teams as they assess and test for environmental and health impacts. This is part of a sweeping enforcement action to compel Norfolk Southern to conduct and pay for any cleanup actions caused by the derailment. Myla Simbulan, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Meanwhile, U.S. veterans who file for disability benefits may now see the status of their claims online. Jeff Sanidad reports.
United States veterans can now access their disability benefit claim decision notice letters electronically. Disability decisions may be accessed quickly and easily on va.gov. Before making this option available, veterans had to wait for the paper copy of their decision notice to be mailed to them. Since launching on January 17, nearly 280,000 decision notice letters have already been downloaded. Secretary Dennis McDonough says veterans now have access to their benefits decisions anytime and anyplace right at their fingertips. He says these can also open the door to other federal and state benefits. Quick and easy access to a decision means a quicker access to the additional benefits veterans deserve. The new electronic option is also expected to reduce calls to the national call centers. It frees up call center respondents to answer other questions and requests from veterans and their families. To access their decision letters, veterans can log in to va.gov. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jeff Sanidad, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
This week's stories from Thomas I. Likeness include AI giving tracheostomy patients a voice, cops in Mexico getting virtual training, and world travelers bringing something from home to post in a forest. These and more on Correspondent at Large.
And now news and commentary from around the globe. Let me tell you about a breakthrough in the care of people who cannot talk because they've had a tracheostomy. Artificial intelligence is giving these people a voice. This app uses artificial intelligence to lip-read patients. Nathan Armstrong is a patient at Royal Preston Hospital in Preston, England. Now, because Armstrong has had a tracheostomy, the only way he can speak is by pressing a button on the tube in his neck. And he says that's painful. But using the app, says Armstrong, has had a big impact on his life. Watch now how he can use it to communicate with his nurse.
Good morning, Nathan. How are you today?
I'm in pain.
You're in pain. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'll go and see if we've got any pain relief due, okay? Is there anything else I can get you?
Doctor.
The doctor, okay. Actually, they just started the ward round, so they'll be coming here very shortly.
Nurse Linda Phillips says this app makes patients feel less isolated.
Being a real godsend because it gives a voice to patients that haven't got a voice. Quite often, you know, they try and mouth words, and with the best will in the world, it is very difficult to lip read some patients. So it's made a huge difference, not only to the patient, but to the families as well, because, you know, we're helping them, stopping them get frustrated.
Another breakthrough in the high-tech world. High-tech is also helping these cops in Mexico City train for dangerous real-life situations. These officers are training in the first virtual reality training center in Latin America. Now, in this scenario, they're trying to free a girl who has been kidnapped by an armed man at a market. The virtual crime takes place in a neighborhood with high levels of violence. The officers are wearing goggles that project them onto the crime scene. One instructor says it's a complete change in the way they do their training. By going through this exercise, officers can see the mistakes they make and learn how they can improve. Oops! This is a sound you do not want to hear at an art exhibition, but it happened last week at a contemporary art fair in downtown Miami. A woman attending the show got a little too close to a shiny blue porcelain sculpture created by renowned artist Jeff Koons. The work was about a foot high and it's part of his Balloon Dog series of porcelain sculptures. Apparently, this visitor had accidentally kicked the podium the exhibit was on. That knocked the piece over, sending it plummeting to the ground, where there it lay shattered into pieces. The hall went silent. Value of this work, $42,000. As the gallery manager says, that's why you have insurance. One of the things about road trips to places you've never been to before is the things you see along the way. My wife was gone on a trip last week with friends from our church. They drove about 2,000 kilometers from our home in Edmonton to a place called Whitehorse. That's up in the Arctic in Canada's Yukon territory. At a place called Watson Lake, they stopped at an attraction called Signpost Forest. And that's exactly what it is. It's a collection of signposts that travelers from around the world have been bringing from their hometowns. Now, this tradition dates back to the World War II days when the Alaska Highway project was being built. American soldier Carl K. Lindley spent some time in Watson Lake recovering from an injury. The commanding officer ordered Lindley to repair and erect directional signposts. So while completing the job, he added one of his own from his hometown of Danville, Illinois. And so it began. More than 50 years later, in 1990, a couple from Ohio added the 10,000th sign. And today, well, there's more than 77,000 signs in that forest. And the number grows each year as more visitors pass through. I'll be back in 7 days, and in the meantime, I wish you all peace, joy, and happiness in the ensuing week. Thomas I. Likeness, Correspondent at Large, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
In other news, amid an alarming increase in the number of children experiencing sadness and depression, the United States funds schools to increase access to mental health services on campuses. Rochelle Feria on Health is Wealth.
The U.S. Education Department announces awards of over $188 million across 170 grantees in over 30 states to increase access to school-based mental health services. The grants also aim to strengthen the pipeline of mental health professionals in high-needs districts. The Department of Education says these grants will equip communities in hiring 5,400 school-based mental health professionals. They are also meant to train an estimated 5,500 more to build a diverse pipeline of mental health providers in schools. These investments aim to broaden access to critical mental health supports by increasing the number of healthcare providers within the schools. These competitive grants are the first in a series of awards the department will make over several years. The grants are the largest investment in school-based mental health the U.S. has ever made. A recent CDC report reveals that in 2021, more than 4 in 10 high school students in the country felt persistently sad or hopeless, and nearly a third experienced poor mental health. In the same year, 1 in 5 students seriously considered attempting suicide, and 1 in 10 attempted suicide. Rochelle Feria, Washington, D.C., Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Speaking of benefits, Medicaid continuous coverage is ending soon. What can individuals do to stay covered? And what are states doing for their part? Anna Kui reports.
The Medicaid continuous coverage ends on March 31, 2023, leaving states with the great task of ensuring millions of eligible individuals stay covered. In March 2020, Congress passed the Family's First Coronavirus Response Act. It required states to keep Medicaid enrollees in the program until the end of the month in which the public health emergency ends, regardless of their eligibility. In exchange, states received an increase in federal funding for Medicaid reimbursement, known as the Federal Medical Assistance Percentage. The public health emergency for COVID-19 in the U.S. is set to expire on May 11, 2023. So why is the continuous enrollment ending before the public health emergency expires? Well, part of the year-end legislation that was signed into law by Congress in December 2022 was delinking the continuous enrollment provision from the public health emergency, setting that certain end date of March 31. States must then resume reviewing all Medicaid enrollees' eligibility by April 1 and begin terminating coverage for those found ineligible. During this process, referred to as unwinding, Medicaid agencies will have 12 months to initiate renewals and 14 months to complete them. In that same spending bill signed into law in December, the federal government gradually phases out the enhanced federal Medicaid matching funds through the end of 2023. This additional funding will help support states in managing the large number of eligibility reviews ahead of them. Federal eligibility requirements must be met by the states to receive the increased reimbursement during the phase-out period. In addition, they have to maintain updated contact information for all enrollees and make good faith efforts to contact them before terminating their coverage due to returned mail. The Kaiser Family Foundation estimates that as many as 14 million people could lose Medicaid coverage when the continuous enrollment provision ends. Medicaid enrollment has increased by over 20,546,000. up 32.2% since February 2020. Medicaid is a federal and state program that helps people with limited income and resources to cover medical costs. Here in the U.S., it is the largest source of funding for medical and health-related services for individuals and families with low income. Anna Cui, Las Vegas, Nevada, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
Now let's head on over to Papua New Guinea. Speaking of health, after a medical leave, the governor of Port Moresby is back in action. On his return, he underscores the benefits of overall fitness and healthy eating. Here's Echo Ortaleza Quinola on Oceania at a Glance.
Port Moresby City Manager Rabu Frank leads the National Capital District employees and visitors in welcoming the return of Governor Powes Parkop from his medical recuperation. The governor resumes office routines. He calls for the rise of one people, one city. His main focus is to have clearer roadmaps for a clean and safer Port Moresby. Parkop attends the Active City Development Program, Walk for Love. A Healthy City is an active city event headed by Fazila Vazari. This also serves as the launch of Active City Events Calendar 2023.
I'd like to firstly praise the God Almighty for helping me to giving me back my life to come back and be here with our people, our city, our country. I'm so happy to be back. Secondly, I would like to thank everybody for all their prayers, helping me in their thoughts, sending me energy to recover. And third and foremost, I want to encourage everyone, to make their health a priority.
Parkop reiterates the importance of health, staying fit, and diet consciousness.
We got to, for me, to keep on improving my health and fitness, wellness, and motivate more people to take up their own health, take ownership, and be responsible for it, and at the same time pursue their goals in their life. The two has to go together. It cannot be separated. So, I'm looking forward now with this emergency behind me. I'm looking forward to, getting back to drive our city, making it more active, but making it, importantly, making it clean, peaceful, safe for everyone, healthy, making it more planned and livable, and of course, prosperous.
With the presence of the city's action man, Port Moresby continues with its growth and progress. Echo Hortaleza Quinola, Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Let's get a glimpse of an ongoing exhibit here in DC. 3 Korean artists in one show. Here's Arlene Ocampo on this week's Embassy Files.
The Korean Cultural Center, Washington, D.C. presents a new group exhibition called Placeless Places. This features the works of 3 contemporary artists, Tracheostomy, Yoo Sung-hee, and So-won-woo. Their artworks display visual art from Korea, exploring the new ways in which we experience a sense of place, or a lack thereof, a place where non-face-to-face activities are the norm. These artists created a post-pandemic update to a familiar concept of the 20th century, placelessness. Tracheostomy creates artworks reflecting her own experience of placelessness. She refigures industrialized urban landscapes portrayed with a vivid digital image-inspired use of acrylics. Yoo Sung-hee's works focus on the prevalent experience of people in online settings. She uses thin wooden panels as her medium, which reflects the weighty but light facet of the human condition. Her use of pastel colors emphasizes the cynical mood similar to that of a tragic fairy tale. So-won-woo portrays his art with abandoned lots and redevelopment sites with almost no human interaction. Thus, placeless places. They evoke a feeling of absence through an unconventional use of traditional oil on canvas. People in his works cannot be identified, and they are all shown from the back. This approach increases a sense of detachment experienced in these places. The majority of the pieces featured in the exhibit are created recently with the emergence of the pandemic. These display of artwork aims to start conversation on the importance of places to people and how we relate to them in a newly shifted world. Placeless Places will be on display until March 29, 2023. Visit washingtondc.korean-culture.org for more details. Arlene Ocampo, Washington, D.C., Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
In an era of vaccine rollouts and pandemic control measures, people are welcoming the return of a different type of infection carrier, the travel bug. Craving new vacation ideas, would-be tourists visit the Travel and Adventure Show in Los Angeles, California for inspiration on planning their next big trip. Here's Eva and Alan on Adventure Awaits.
Globally, the travel industry had been taking it on the chin because of the pandemic, but now domestic and international trips are rebounding.
And so too are events like Los Angeles Travel and Adventure Show, where destination experts help globe-trotting wanderers plan their next big adventure.
Everyone wants to go to Japan in spring season, and we highly recommend it. On this tour package, you will be able to experience and see all these like lovely cherry blossoms like everywhere. I feel like Japan has like a lot of like scenic locations to visit. They have mountains, like rivers. They have like a lot of like good places to visit.
We try to bring to this trade show the Brazil experience. So we have a little bit of everything. We have like Brazilian music going on, and then we also have Brazilian food here. We're also holding some events to travel advisors to show a little bit of our destinations, how to get there, how to do business with Brazil in terms of the travel industry.
We are providing Korean street food, which is named bungeoppang. When you go to Korea, you can find this kind of food, street food, everywhere. We enjoy mingling with people. We especially love Filipino. That's why, you know what, the number 1 or 2 source market to visit Philippines is Korea. Korean people love Boracay, Cebu, and Manila. Filipino, like us, we are very similar. The only things between us is just the sea.
To truly experience different cultures, travel show host Rick Steves recommends people to live like a native.
If you are eating and sleeping in a way that you're in your own culture in a high-rise American-style hotel and you venture out, you're cutting your experience in half for no reason. So I want the immersion. I want to stay in a comfortable, well-located hotel that connects me with the culture. I want to be a cultural chameleon. I want to eat and drink what the local people drink. I don't want to stay on the rooftop of my hotel and eat what other Americans are eating. My basic mission is to inspire and equip Americans to venture beyond Orlando. And Europe is a good first step, and if you have a good trip, then the whole world becomes your playground.
Attendees not only discover places to visit, but once they arrive there, also bring the know-how they learned from this show to fit in as one of the locals.
Speaking of, I thought you were going with a traditional Polynesian outfit.
Nope, nobody needs to see me in that.
Eva and Allen, Los Angeles, California, Eagle News. We live in extraordinary times.
And because we appreciate listening to you, this week we speak to our friends and neighbors about their take on digital currency. Is it the future of trade or just another fad? Here's Marjorie Quintos.
Digital asset investments, also known as cryptocurrencies, have had their share of ups and downs in the economy. Today, we hit the streets of Canada, Texas, and Hawaii to ask what people's takes are on digital currencies. Take a look.
My thoughts on digital currency, it's a place right now where you have to be careful. Personally, I would continue to invest, but make more informed decisions as opposed to believe in the hype, because that's what plays a role now.
I think it's a very dangerous and volatile market. I think investing in something that has no physical substantiality and that doesn't have a direct value or form, is it a gamble? I think it's the same as gambling or going to a casino.
I could get behind it about 10 years ago, but now with the oversaturation and it essentially turning into monopoly money, I think that there's going to be a crash in the market bigger than the one that was there last year.
I don't know anything about cryptocurrency, although I've heard about it, and I am interested to learn more about cryptocurrency because who knows, in 20 years this might be implemented worldwide, and this is something that might be a good idea to invest your money in.
Like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, I do think that it is going to take over like the stock market. I think it is the future, and I think it does make transactions more secure, in my opinion, but I'm no expert. I don't have any experience in cryptocurrency, but I do have friends that have made money on it. So I think it is definitely something that is going to be a part of our future.
I stay pretty conservative on my investments, and I wouldn't want to invest in Bitcoin. I've had friends invest in them though.
I'm not too well versed in the crypto space, but I do think that it's very volatile, and anyone that's looking to get into this space should be extremely cautious on any news that they see before they're investing.
Last year, there has been a rough patch wherein it was not so good, especially in the last quarter of 2022. But fast forwarding now to 2023, everything is so good with the cryptocurrency, and in my opinion, this is the best time to buy. I do have some coins, which is the Dash cryptocurrency, which I bought off November of 2022 at $44 each. And jumping now to February of 2023, it is now $94 each. So I would very much recommend you to invest in cryptocurrency, but be careful. Always study it, learn it, and choose what is the best cryptocurrency for you. Also, be careful with some of the frauds when it comes to cryptocurrency. All right? Good luck and have a nice day.
While people who have already invested in cryptocurrencies may have become very rich, the volatility of the market has many risks. So, before investing, make sure to understand what exactly you're investing in. Manage your risks and don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Marjorie Quintos, Eagle News, Montreal, Canada. We live in extraordinary times.
Before we let you go, here's our photo of the week by Cielo Likeness. Look at those buffaloes, foraging for what they can near Watson Lake in Canada's Yukon territory. Wow, what a backdrop. Thank you all for joining us again. If there are any stories or topics you want us to share with you, just comment below. View, like, share our other shows. City Limits with Alan Basaliahe. Connected with Dr. David. Take a seat and join us with Anna Kui. Plate Date with Mike Hudson and Friends. Plus Journey, the stories of Filipinos in Canada with Kathleen Cruz. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Eagle News Live. I'm Ralph Cornell. We live in extraordinary times. Happy weekend, everyone.